And welcome to another edition of Match Points here on tennismajors.com, where we come to debate and discuss the biggest topics in tennis as we reach the end of the 2021 season. Say hello once again to our esteemed panel. There she is, tennis great and now media journalist extraordinaire, Marion Bartoli. Also, tennis writer and author and personality, Carole Bouchard. And finally, as always, once again, tennis journalist, media personality, extraordinaire in his own way as well, Mr. Simon Cambers. All right, let's get into the tennis now and the debate stuff. And we got good stuff for this season-ending edition. Up first, the controversial and polarizing NextGen Finals. And for that, we bring in tennis analyst and the founder of BrainGameTennis.com, Craig O'Shaughnessy, to debate this most controversial experiment. So panel, we'll begin with you, and then we'll let Craig expound upon his tweet that set the world on fire. Panel, let's begin with a two-part question, A and B. A, how relevant are these NextGen Finals actually? And B, how do you feel about the rules themselves? Let's begin with you, Marion.
Well, I like the next gen as sort of masters. I like that competition. I just don't like the format. I think it's pointless to make it in 4 games. I don't understand it. I don't see the point of trying to be different. Let's face it, the tour, the regular tournaments will never move to that format, never ever. So why you're putting the youngsters playing in a different format just for the sake of putting a different format? I don't understand it. I like the fact that they got a small taste of what it could be to play a European Championship as sort of the main one. So I like that. I thought the competition was great to see Corda, to see Alcaraz, all those young players, Hugo Gaston, the French guy as well, just coming in, and some new ones as well from Argentina. I think it's great to see it, but I just don't like the format. So I wish they can keep the competition, but changing back to a normal and regular event with just normal format. That said, I know a lot of people have been saying over the past few years that tennis starts to be boring, that we have to change a lot of things, that, rules need to be changed, needs to be quicker, blah, blah, blah. I just don't get it. I mean, when you look at the stadiums and you see some great players facing, you have seen it in the Rolex Paris Masters in Bercy, it was full, it was packed. People love the competition just the way it is. If you're lacking spectators, it's for other reasons than just the format. So please just stop, being so focused on this stupid format. Keep it the way it is. We have a history behind tennis. Please keep that, cherish that, and change some other stuff around that we can have with the new technology and everything. That I understand, just like the Formula One has been doing. But just don't change the format of tennis. It's beautiful as it is.
I was a little bit sceptical when they brought it in 2017. I wasn't sure it was really going to be that much interest. But it's got a lot of things going for it, it's got to be said. I think it's a great showcase for the young players. What it does is it enables the rest of the world, the tennis watching world, to know more about some of these players when they arrive on their screens at the big tournaments, when otherwise they wouldn't know them from Adam. They just think, oh, who the hell's that? But actually they've seen them, they've got a bit of detail about their story, and that means that they can invest in them, and that's a really good thing. I like the fact that it's, as Marion said, it gives them a chance to compete in a big tournament at the end of a season, get a feel for what it's like to play in a tour finals, even if it's next gen. I think some of the rules that they've tested out have been quite innovative, quite good. I think, even simple things like not handing the ball boys the towels and stuff last year was good. I think we'll probably see some rules come in, and in fact we are going to see the bathroom break rule come in on the ATP Tour next year, where it'll go to just 3 minutes with 2 minutes extra if you're changing your clothes. But that starts from the time the players get to the locker room or the bathroom, whichever one it is. That's good, So they're getting a chance to do some of these things. I think that the scoring system, I do love the scoring system in tennis. And as someone who's played a lot of tennis as a kid and stuff, it's sort of ingrained in me, and it's hard to change that. But I also know from years and years of watching it that the beginning of every tennis match is boring, unless it's a semi-final or a final. It is boring until it gets to 4-all, 5-4, till it starts to get interesting and important at the end of the set. So by shortening the sets to 4-all, and I'm sure Craig will come to this when he talks, it makes more points more relevant. And from a tennis point of view, that is a good thing. From a TV point of view, I'm sure they love that. As I said, it's hard for me to see a wholesale change, but I could see a tournament somewhere deciding to give it a go and see what happens in terms of TV ratings and how the fans like it.
Well, I think it was more relevant when it started than now, actually, because they started this as 3 or 4 guys were winning everything, and you wouldn't see the youngsters at the end of the tournament because they had no space. So they started this to showcase somebody else than Nadal, Djokovic, Federer, Murray, or even Wawrinka. And that was fine. The issue I have today is that those guys, Alcaraz, we had Sinner, they're already now on the tour. They're doing their things. We don't need to have them playing against other 20-year-olds at the end of the year. But fine, I mean, it's all good fun and all. I went the first year, and I mean, the Italian Federation did a great job with it. My only issue is that I hate this format. I hate it. You get into the thing and the set is over. The players are getting into the thing and the set is over. Somebody's getting broken, it's done. Nothing is happening. I was asking Shapovalov that week, like, do you want it to be implemented on the tour? And he was like, oh, hell no. Not a single one of these players were like, 17, 18, 19-year-old wanted to see it, wanted to play with it. I like the way they want to try things because we always have the reputation in tennis, you never want to change anything, you're so set in your own ways, but there's a limit. And for me, the limit is this damn format. I can't get into any of those matches because it's too short for me. And my issue with that is you don't see the athleticism. You don't see, it's tough to judge the level of the player and to see who is the best because they don't get tired. They don't get mentally stressed because it's too short. So you don't see who really can be that great, can really be the next big thing. And so for me, it's just too short. But as Simon said, maybe that's because we're so used to this format. But I agree with Marion, at some point, just stop trying to destroy that game because, I don't know, you're convinced people are more liking TikTok than a tennis match. Bercy was insane. I've never seen so many people. And also after all the COVID-19 thing, people they're craving tennis. Just don't feed them this 4-game format.
All right. All good. All right. Now let's go to our guest. That's why we're into this now. We'll give him the last word on this so he can have the first word on his own tweet. Craig, your thoughts now on the relevancy of these next-gen finals and how you honestly feel, I think we already know, about these rules. Craig.
What you need to do is kind of remove the opinion and look at it from a slightly different perspective. So I did a straight up next-gen versus ATP finals, just dead straight up. And the first thing that I looked at is the actual time of the matches. I looked at the break points generated because what we're looking at here is, as Simon said, there's so much dead time in a normal set. There just is, whether you like it or not. There's a ton of dead time that we're wading through to get to 1-all, 2-all, 3-all, 3-1, 4-2, 4-3, and to get to something exciting. So I looked at the time of the match, I looked at the break points, which is a very big deal, and the total points. So, Carole, you'll be very pleased to know that the total points that out of Next Gen versus the ATP, Musetti and Gaston had 217 points, and Medvedev and Zverev had 216 points. So the Next Gen got them by 1 point. That's a real big deal. With total points, there's a lot of points being played in Next Gen. There's 217 points for Musetti, Gaston, 192 Korda, and Gaston, Korda and Nakashima, 168. So from a total point perspective, the average of the total points at the Next Gen was 132 points a match. The average at the ATP Finals was 144. So when we look at the time for the average Next Gen match, it's an hour and 29 minutes. So let's just call it an hour and a half. It's perfect. It's an hour and a half time slot. At the ATP Finals, it's an hour and 43. So, we're looking at a difference of about 14 minutes. So I think that's a good thing. Now, I've saved the best for last. What we want to do is get away from the points that are just dead time. There were 213 points generated on breakpoint at the Next Gen. There were only 128 at the ATP Finals. That's 85 more breakpoints generated in a shorter period of time. There is more excitement. I'll repeat that. There's more excitement in this format. The first to four over 5 sets generated 85 more break points over a shorter period of time. It's amazing. I sat next to Barry Cowen next to this, and we talked about, the first thing we talked about is all of the all the ATP 250 events that are struggling, that are underwater. I mean, go and find an ATP 250 event, and you know, it's very difficult to find one that's just absolutely thriving. So if you put it in, if you just put this format in at the ATP 250 event, you're going to get a lot more break points. You're going to get a lot more excitement in the matches. You're going to go from an hour and 43 down to an hour and 29 on average. It's a better product. The Grand Slams stay best of 5 for the rest of history. Let's not talk about that. ATP 1000s, ATP 500s, they have the normal format, but introduce this more exciting format into the ATP 250s and our sport will thrive. Game, set, match.
We're happy to have guests this week, obviously. Craig, you tweeted during the competition, quote, "Coming soon, ATP 250s to adopt the next-gen scoring of first to four, no ad, and 5 sets." If you haven't already, please continue your thoughts for us right here and right now. The final word on this, according to you, is what?
I just think that the ATP 250 level is an absolutely ideal place to put this in. The ATP 250 struggle financially. We've got a better format. We're getting more break points. We're getting more exciting points. We're cutting the dead time out completely. We're going over 5 sets. I just think the ATP 250s will do better financially with this better system. I just don't see any possible way that if I'm owning an ATP 250 and I go and sit in Milan and I go and sit in Torino, I'm going to the ATP boss and going, I want the Milan version for my tournament and I want it immediately.
All right, panel, agree or disagree with Craig, and then a sentence or two as to why. Simon, let's begin with Simon. We'll give Marion a chance to back him. Simon, agree or disagree in a couple sentences, why or why not?
Yeah, I really don't mind the idea of an ATP 250 giving it a go. Why not? Anything, as Craig said, he's absolutely right. The 250s are seriously struggling for money as a whole. One or two that are backed by federations are okay, but otherwise they don't make money, so they've got to try something. I also like an idea that Paul McNamee came up with, we wrote about on Tennis Majors, which was to start a tournament on a Sunday and have the final on a Friday night. Then you own that Friday. It's an underused slot in sport around the world. Why not? Be a little bit innovative, try it, give it a go. If it doesn't work, you can always go back to what was not working before.
Carole, agree or disagree? And if so, why or why not?
Oh, I still disagree because I've been there, saw that, and I couldn't get into it. And I can't believe you're going to make people pay a week-long tickets to see four game match. It's not going to happen. I don't believe it. If you want to try, please try. But I really think you don't get into those matches. The momentums are different. It's too short for me. I have zero fun watching that, so I won't change my mind on that.
If I may, before Marion pops in, there was one other thing that I forgot. There was we looked at matches again. The break points are the more exciting points. The matches at the Next Gen that generated 12 or more break points, 12 or more, was 11 of the 15 matches. 11 of the 15. Then we go to the ATP Finals and we see the matches that generated 12 or more, 1. 11 versus 1 on the big points. This format really generates the big points in a match.
Marion, I'm going to relieve you of some of the pressure of having to agree or disagree with Craig. Instead, I'm going to ask you to tell us who's right and who's wrong. Simon, who agrees, or Carole, who does not?
I'm not going to get into that one. I'm just going to give my honest opinion. Even though I love Craig's passion and I understand where he wants to go, I see it, I understand his point of view. And I agree on the fact that a lot of ATP 250, and it's the same actually on the WTA, are struggling financially because they're lacking the attraction of top 10 players. And therefore, when you're lacking that, it's very difficult anyways to make any public coming onto the court, because unless you have someone national who is a superstar in their country and that can sell you enough tickets to make you survive, if you don't have that, your asset is just lacking a lot of appeal to start with. But I don't see it changing just because of the format. And for me, honestly, those type of sets reminds me when I used to play the county championship under 6. when I was 6 years old or 5.5, and I used to play for 5 games, and I was serving underhand. That's what reminds me those type of sets. It's like you're so small and so weak, you can't go into like your normal sets, and you can't play with the normal rules. So we try to sort of adapt so it's less difficult and everyone can play. So for me, the innovation and the way to make those small tournaments survive, the reflection and the thinking process behind it has to be different from changing the format. But on the fact that those ATP 250 and the same on the WTA are massively struggling financially, that point of view I entirely agree with Craig on, and I think the whole planet agree on. It's just the fact that I don't think the format would change it. And to be honest, just try to put myself back on the shoe of a player when I used to play. You just don't want to have a set to be decided at 3-all. That's just so unfair. You first cut it out entirely. The fact that even if you get broken, you can still come back, because if someone serves for the set at 5-4, 6-5, doesn't mean you have lost the set. You can still break by, go to a tiebreak or whatever. You take away the physical part as well. When you look at Djokovic against Zverev in the semifinal of the Masters, it was 1 hour set. That entire physical part of a set has to be put into the debate of who is going to win the match, whether you can recover physically. And this is where also Novak has been able to take the edge of Sasha Zverev at the US Open, because he wore him down eventually on that fifth set. And you can't take that away. And why doing it only on the ATP 250? Because that means you're sort of, put that as a second category level of tournament, and therefore you can, make your own little league, because that doesn't really count, and those points doesn't really count. And then for the big tournaments, you're saving the sort of normal format. I just don't get the idea behind it. I think you have to have one common rule for everybody at whatever level you're playing, as long as you're an adult or you're playing some sort of professional level. But you can't just separate each section of tournaments just because they have different price money and different ranking points.
Craig, any final words on Marion letting you down, disappointing you there in the end?
The short matches that Carole hates, under 70 minutes. The matches under 70 minutes. There were 3 of them at the Next Gen. There were 3 of them at the ATP Finals. Gotcha, Carole.
Well done. Craig O'Shaughnessy, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time here on Match Points at tennismajors.com. Thank you so much, sir. Fair enough. Marion Bartoli, Carole Bouchard, Simon Cambers, thank you as always, our esteemed panel. And of course to our guest, who is never shy of opinions, in case you didn't notice yet. Make sure you check in on tennismajors.com each and every day for updates, not just on the situation in China, but the very latest in all of tennis. For our panel, Josh Cohen saying thank you for watching. We will see you next time for more Match Points right here on tennismajors.com.